Little bit of quick business before we get started. A little shout out to my Patreons. Bendiciones to Tony Castro. I gotta say that. Big supporter. And then a little quick shout out to Gilcliff for sending me this DVD shit. That's amazing. I got a bunch of like old injuries that I got from wrestling and being a general idiot, jumping off stages, stage diving and landing on my neck and everything. So this stuff is keeping me alive right now. And it has a little bit of energy too, so it's awesome.
Oh, nice.
Anyway, now that's out of the way. Dave Davidson, how are you,
What's up,
brother?
Eddie? I'm good, man. How about yourself?
Oh, uh, same thing as everybody else is saying, hanging in there, trying to survive this weirdest year of all times.
Yes.
Yeah, I see that you've adjusted to that new life with the mics and everything. So you're doing a lot of live streaming and lesson stuff.
Yeah, I'm teaching a lot. I'm getting more into live streaming. I did one Twitch session so far. I'm going to be doing more. Yeah, just sort of adapting to this new normal for musicians and other creatives. Having to sort of work from home indefinitely.
Yeah, it's nuts. There's no timeline at all. I mean, I guess we can get our hopes up because the UK found that vaccine that seems to make people immune, which is exciting. But who knows how long before it gets mass produced and distributed to everyone, and it becomes like the normal of like the flu shot, which every year people have to go get their flu shot. So I think that's what we're gonna have to do. Hopefully they can combine them so I don't have to take two shots every year.
Right.
But yeah, this new normal for musicians is tough. I'm glad to see that you're adapting. A lot of people aren't. More importantly, venues and stuff like that are having a hard time. So I don't know. I don't know what's going to happen. I'm actually teaming up with the people from Music Cares, the Recording Academy, to try and do a special episode, raise awareness and stuff, because they're helping out people that are struggling. Have you reached out to Music Cares or anything like that, or are you fine financially?
Yeah, we applied for some grant. I think I'm not sure if it was Music Cares. It may have been Music Cares. It was something, I think, through the Grammys or something like that.
Yeah, that's Music Cares. Yeah.
Okay, so that was Music Cares. Yeah, and we each got a check because we could prove that we had like some tours canceled. So that was very nice and helpful, obviously, in this time where everything's so uncertain. And when I was like a month or two back, I was part of that Slay at Home Fest where I wrote a song with Luke LeMay from Gorguts and Liam from Dillinger and Elliot from Carbomb, and all the proceeds that was like basically this like online performance fundraiser sort of thing, and all the proceeds from that I think went to Music Cares. So it was nice to get something from them, and it was nice to give something back.
Yeah, man, that was an awesome thing, by the way. The Slay at Home Festival. Cheers to Rob and Frank and all them out there for doing that.
Yeah.
It's an aspect of our lives that, especially if you're a metalhead, like that's a big part of your life to go to shows, go to festivals, not only see the bands you love, but also discover some new stuff. And it was really cool to see you collaborating. And, I wasn't when I saw the names, I was immediately like, this is going to be good no matter what. But then I was blown away, man. I want more. I hope you guys make more music together. That was fun.
Thank you, man. Well, you never know. We might surprise you.
But speaking of music, you've got a project, Gargoyl, that you've been in since 2019, more or less. We talked about it last time you were on.
Yep.
But you got a new album, self-titled, and you got one song out right now.
Yes. Yep. Yeah. One song out. Electrical Sickness was the first single.
Yeah, and it's weird. It's it put me in a state of unease, which I think is the point.
Yes. Yeah. It's sort of like the soundtrack to everyone's anxiety right now.
Yeah, it's nuts. I kept seeing grunge, like it was Dave Davidson's new grunge project. I'm like, the grunge I remember was torn jeans and flannels and Nirvana. That's not what this sounds like.
Yeah. I think people are going to label things with whatever buzzwords that they think are maybe the most eye-catching, for headlines or whatever. I think there's certainly a grunge influence on the record if you listen to the whole thing. Whether it's sort of vocal lines, sort of harmony sensibilities, but yeah, it's definitely not like a 90s grunge throwback by any means. We're bringing in a lot of different elements. There's avant-garde metal, there's grunge rock, there's goth, there's prog fusion elements. There's all these different things that kind of go into the sound of Gargoyle. And I'm very proud of the final product of the record because it's such a dynamic record. And I think once you hear the whole thing, like, you're not going to get the whole picture of what Gargoyle is all about with just one track. So even just figuring out which songs were going to be the singles was sort of like a point of contention, because it's just you put one track out and everyone's going to assume it's one thing. But so far it's been funny, like what I've read with what people have been saying about the track. It's like everything from, oh, it sounds like, Allison Chains meets Meshuggah. It sounds like, Queens of the Stone Age mixed with Voivod. As someone said, it was like, Dysrhythmia meets like, some other sort of like Faith No More or something like that. But it's cool that so many people are getting all these different takeaways from this track, and because we put out a demo prior to this as well. So I like being in a position where it's hard to define our music. That's sort of what I strive with, I think, with Revocation. I mean, obviously we're a metal band, right? But you can't just point to one genre and say like, oh, we're throwback thrash band, or we're old school death metal band or something like that. There's all these different components that make up the Revocation sound. So Gargoyle is sort of no different. It's just in a different medium, right?
Yeah. And for those that haven't heard it, and I know you would think you would see like a headline on like a PRP or something where it's like, Dave Davidson of Revocation has a new project and it's called Gargoyle. Your brain, at least my brain, automatically was like, oh, more death metal or more screaming, but there's no screaming. It's all clean vocals.
Yes. Yeah. That was one of the biggest departures, and something that I wanted to embrace head on. Luke, the singer of Gargoyle, and he's also the guitarist of Gargoyle as well, is just an amazing singer, really brilliant musician. He comes up with fantastic ideas. I was really enamored with his band Ayahuasca, and that was what sort of led us to work together. Ayahuasca ended up opening for Revocation when we were playing in Toronto some years back, and we just kind of got to talking, and we clicked really well, and we I think I might even mentioned it on the last time we chatted. We were like, oh, we should do something together, and then we actually made it happen. A lot of times they're just kind of like conversations in passing, and they never actually lead anywhere. But I think both Luke and I were sort of hungry for a new project, and once we started writing, the ideas were just flowing out so fast. So yeah, like just hearing Luke's voice and the tone of it, and like I said, his just ideas in general. He's got a really brilliant like musical mind. I wanted to sort of run towards that and just really embrace the clean singing aspect of it, or as anyone else calls it, not in death metal, just singing.
Yeah. Pussy shit, bro. I'm just kidding. You mentioned Allison Chains earlier, and I have to say, yeah, I definitely hear that, like the way the harmonies, kind of like this and that kind of, like I said, this uneasy. It's beautiful, but it makes me like, anxious listening to it, and I don't know, I'm excited for it, and I have noticed that, not that people are sounding similar in any way whatsoever, but I have noticed that a lot of new bands or new projects that are coming out with music right now, everybody has this like little edge of weirdness to it now, that it's all different weirdness. But like I heard the new Greg Puciato of Dillinger put out a single, and it's heavy, but it's weird. Mastodon put a new thing out yesterday, and it's heavy, but it's weird. And it's just, I don't know. I know you said that this is the soundtrack to everybody's anxiety right now, but I'm sure these songs you've been working on for a while. So
yes, yeah.
Before the pandemic and everything?
Oh yeah, for sure.
Okay.
All of this is before that. Luke he wrote all the lyrics and vocal melodies on the record. So like his vision and symbolism, like I'll ask him here and there about things, and he can articulate it, but sometimes he can be like a little bit cryptic too. But when we were talking during the pandemic, it was almost like I got the sense that like he said something along the lines of, yeah, I could kind of feel something was like brewing. Like I had no idea it was going to be like on this magnitude, but I think certain artists, they have like an intuitive feeling, almost like they can kind of take like the emotional temperature of the room, and because they're so empathetic, like they're picking up on all these things. So he had mentioned that like, oh wow, it's crazy because some of like the lyrical themes deal with like with dystopian sort of futures and feelings of like anxiety and feelings of like fear and like the like societal pressures and all these different things. So it turned out to be quite prolific in today's day and age, and I guess he's a bit of a grunge Nostradamus, if you will.
Yeah, it's weird. I did have that feeling prior to all this too, and a lot of people they had a sense that, and I've heard people describe it as like we were going too fast or something, or things are getting a little too crazy, and some kind of change was going to happen.
Right.
I don't think anybody expected this, but
yeah.
I wonder now what's going to come of this. Like for yourself, are you finding yourself struggling with creativity at all, or are you keeping yourself busy with just preparing for this stuff and lessons?
Yeah, I'm actually keeping myself pretty busy. I'm so thankful every day that I have music as an outlet for myself. Because without it, I think it would be much more of a struggle navigating all these things. So when the quarantine hit, I wrote that song for Pallid Veil, for this lay at home thing, which was I was just feeling all these like anxieties and all these feelings of everything under the sun, when I think it hit everybody in such a myriad of different ways. Like, we're thinking about the future, but we're also thinking about like, how day-to-day life has changed so fast. And, what is this going to look like a month from now or 6 months from now or a year from now? Hearing that, you're not going to be going on tour for a year, probably at least, right? That was a shock to the system. So I was dealing with all those emotions, and, I just needed to write some weird, gross death metal to kind of, get those anxieties out. But I've also been busy with teaching. I made a website for myself while I was in quarantine. Well, I hired someone to do it, but compiled all the materials for that. And so DaveDavidsonGuitar.com. So that was like, that took up a bunch of my time, and I essentially sort of wrote like over 120 page book, like exercises and stuff like that for all these different facets of guitar that I have for sale through my website. So just compiling all those materials. A lot of it was like sheets that I had made for students over the years, and I thought like, all right, well, I might as well like really flesh this out a little bit more and add to it and make this like a concrete sort of all-encompassing like lesson packet. So that was keeping me busy. Now that the Gargoyl record's coming out, doing things, doing press and like promoting it, that's keeping my mind focused and occupied on these different tasks that aren't coming up. Like, every week it's like, okay, I'm going to do this interview, or I got this thing planned to promote the new song that we have coming up. So that's been nice. And yeah, like I said, just teaching, I think a lot of people are home and want to play guitar, want to, maybe they bought a guitar and never really played it, never got lessons, and now they're using this time as like, an excuse to be like, all right, let me like really try to give this a shot. Or, it's just, gets people that have been playing guitar for a while that are like, oh, let me, dive in a little bit deeper here and take some lessons. So that's been keeping me busy as well.
And is that your like main source of income right now? Like, you don't have a day job?
Yeah, no, it's just all music.
All right. Yeah, because I was gonna say a lot of musician friends are having to work, putting themselves at risk, being outside and stuff like that. It's kind of scary, you know what I mean? You don't want to. Myself, like I'm itching to go out
Yeah.
every day, but I fight that itch because, is it worth it? Is it worth bringing home like a little, tiny little bug of whatever it may be? It's not worth it. But it's good to hear that you're staying busy and also being able to stay afloat financially, 'cause that's the hardest part of all this,
For
thinking
sure.
about putting out a new album with Gargoyle and not being able to tour on it or do any shows,
Right.
uh, what are what are their plans? Like, I mean, are you guys going to do some kind of, streaming internet, quarantine video thing? Are you guys even talking about shows at this point?
Yeah, that's the thing. You hear little whispers of this or that, and for me, I'm like, I can't commit to anything right now. I mean, like, sure, like put us down for something. Like, I think Revocation might have like tentatively plans to go out in the springtime. Nothing that we can announce yet, but like, I'm like, yeah. I mean, if it's good to go by then we'll be out there, and if it's not, I'm sure we'll have several months of a heads up, before we fully commit to something. So, yeah, as far as like touring plans or anything like that, it's all so up in the air. I don't think really anyone has the answers to it. I think it's all basically wishful thinking right now. Because like you said, and I read that same article about some promising vaccines on the horizon, things that might maybe even be in like small clinical trials right now. That's amazing, and it's awesome that I mean, I feel like every scientist, epidemiologist is like, this is like the number one priority right now. But there's billions of people in the world, and how do you manufacture enough of that vaccine, quickly and safely to get it, administered worldwide? So it's going to take some time for sure. So yeah, I'm not really thinking too much about that. I think sometimes it can be like a bummer and get like a little bit dark when you're like, oh, what's going to happen, a month from now or this or that. So I'm just trying to live day to day, focus on creativity, focus on the projects that I've got like on the horizon, and focus on making more projects for myself down the line, so that I can stay busy, so that I can stay creative, and just have an outlet for everything that's all these emotions that I'm feeling right now, and I'm sure so many people are feeling.
Yeah, man. I mean, it's extra rough for like myself or people that use martial arts as a stress reliever because you can't really do it. I can't really go to the gym and go wrestle someone right now and let all that out. So now unless you are like you or have music in your life or some kind of art, there's no real outlet. Like, what, Call of Duty, maybe go shoot some people online? Like, that's
Right, right.
where's all that stress and anxiety going? But
Well, I think there's ways to alleviate that, if you look for it, right? I mean, sometimes it's easier said than done, but I mean, we've all got so much time, to ourselves right now to think about these different things, and so I always like to try to err on the side of positivity, and encourage people, like maybe it's something so simple, but like you could get a book and start reading. You could do things like I mean, it sounds silly, but you could do like, hell, like get on Skype, with your friends and play Dungeons and Dragons or something like that. You know what I mean? Something that
yeah,
has like that can kind of take your mind off of it. And like you're just hanging out with your friends and like enjoying enjoying any kind of interaction that you can have, right? Even if it's like digital for the time being. So meditation, working out at home, things like that. I bought like an exercise mat for myself, and because obviously like you're not gonna go to the gym anytime soon.
yeah.
I got a bike, so I'm like biking around now. That's something like I probably never would have done like had I been going out with my like regular daily routine. So I guess like just trying to look for those like silver linings here and there, and like figuring out ways of staying mentally and physically healthy in this whole thing, because the two are like they're obviously tied together. So
Yeah.
just trying to stay focused and stay positive, and look for those, I guess, silver linings like wherever you can, because that's sort of I think what we all need right now.
Yeah, a lot of people don't realize the connection between physical health and mental health too. Like, I have friends that during this time they've gained weight because they're just, they're home, they're not working out, they're not doing their thing, and they're just vegging out on the couch, watching everything on Netflix and eating. And then they're like, I'm more depressed. I'm like, well, yeah, you're not doing stuff. You're not out. You're not active. You're not, circulating the chemicals that your brain needs to make. And it's crazy. I mean, I'm staying super busy. The podcast has never been busier. Thankfully, this type of environment, like it's actually opening more doors for me because there's more people accepting the whole digital communication thing.
Right.
Before it was like, no, let's do it in person. Like now it's like we don't have a choice. So
Right.
this also I've seen like some really fun, like happy hour Zoom meetings that are happening where people get together, and it's people that, like you said, normal day probably wouldn't even communicate because they're so busy working or doing things. So it's cool to see old friends, reuniting and doing little gatherings. And for musicians, it's cool to see some of the creativity that's coming out. Like, there's plenty of the quarantine videos of people in their bedroom and stuff, but I have seen some creative things, like the homies and Animals as Leaders did a whole concert in like a sound studio with crazy visuals and everything. Like that's cool.
Yeah.
And I'm looking forward to see more of that. And we will see more of that and more creativity from people that are trying to figure out this new world, digital world, really. Because I think this is something that we were all expecting. You saw technology advancing, cell phones and virtual reality and all this shit. And I think it's finally now the time to make that transition. Like, I don't want to lose humanity. I don't want to lose going to concerts and stuff. But it's an adaptation that we needed to make, I think. Anyway.
Yeah, and I think you hit the nail on the head. Like, I mean, how do we embrace this technology, but maintain our humanity, throughout the entire process? Because sometimes it can be a little bit, dehumanizing, right? Like, I mean, humans are social creatures, and obviously, I think we need that interaction. Even just like the physical sensation of touch, like like hugging a friend or this or that. It sort of comes with like a question mark now, right? With everything, it's like, oh, do I just give like an elbow bump or whatever? Like, if you're out going on the grocery store and you like see someone in public that normally you'd be like, oh, what's up, man? And like now that's like there's like this sort of guarded and rightfully so, exchange. So yeah, it's
Demolition Man called it though. Like that's the new hello. It's the
right. Yeah, so it's hard navigating all that stuff, man, and it all came so fast. I mean, it's been said just in terms of social media in general. Like we're all participating in a social science experiment that no one really signed up for either. You know what I mean? Like I think everything was sort of good intention, but as technology develops, right? As it's like it's not like an incremental thing. It's an exponential leap, right? So we sort of started off here, and now we're like way up here on the bell curve, and it's just only going, it's basically becoming like a straight line going up in terms of how fast technology is developing, and our brains don't evolve that fast. So can we keep up with the technology is the real question. Not before I think it was, can the technology keep up with us, and now it's, can we keep up with the technology? So that remains to be seen. We'll find out.
Yeah, I mean, you got people like Elon Musk working on Neuralink, which is supposed to be like a thing that, I don't know if you've heard of it. Have you checked that out?
Yeah, I haven't researched it a ton, but it's something that I'm aware of, and I've read sort of different articles. This is a while ago at this point, maybe a few years back, but Ray Kurzweil was like that futurist, statistician.
Singularity.
Yeah, exactly, all that stuff, and he was sort of talking about like what's coming down the pipeline, and it's really wild stuff, and his predictions are pretty damn accurate when it comes to all that stuff.
How do you, I mean, I guess since you read some articles, but like he recently came out talking about, within 5 years we're getting this thing, and would you be willing to put a chip in your brain?
I wouldn't want to be the guinea pig for that. Put it that way. I wouldn't want to be the
You're not going to be on the first wave.
Yeah, I'm not going to be the 1.0. I'll maybe wait to see if it fries anyone's brain in the process.
Yeah, get the Neuralink 5S Plus.
Right. Right. I'll get the right. Yeah.
Yeah, I'm all about it.
Now
I don't
with
know if
less brain melting.
Yeah, right. I wouldn't be, like you said, I wouldn't be there at launch day, but it's definitely something I'm interested in. I mean, I'm weird in that sense where I love humanity. I'm one of those dudes, like my whole personality has had to change because of this. Because, I mean, you know me, we've hung out, and you know that I'm a kind of a touchy guy. Like I hug you, I pinch nipples,
Right.
do the ribbing and everything. So all of that has to change. I can't do that anymore. But I'm also kind of a proponent for the, like, give me a robot body, give me robot legs, hook me up to the internet, juice me up. I'm ready to go.
You're gonna be a brain in a jar kind of thing.
I'm all for it, man. Who cares? Humanity sometimes can be overrated, especially you see the news these days. Like every time I turn the news on, I'm like, good Lord, what's new? Like, what other ridiculous thing did some human do, especially some human in power?
Yeah, it is sort of a crisis fatigue right now as far as just all the bad news that sort of keeps coming up.
I'm ready for cyberpunk reality, man. Give me the enhanced, enhanced eyes that I could see, and like, oh, that person's a jerk. I can tell because just looking at him, I could see his profile and see how his comments on Facebook, and he's a piece of shit. So I'm not even going to talk to him.
Right. Be a good way to weed out people at dinner parties and stuff like that.
Oh my goodness, yeah, dinner parties or concerts or like NAMM or something. You're like, nope,
Right.
turn left, quick.
Yeah, you look at someone's face and it's just an X, and you're like, all right, get this guy out of here.
Oh man, to go back a little bit on to Gargoyle, it says here you guys recorded at God City, so that's Kurt's studio. You got the Converge shirt on. How was that experience for you? I mean, it says it was produced by Chris Johnson, but was Kurt involved as well?
No, Kurt wasn't involved at all. It was all Chris. I mean, it's Kurt's studio, obviously, but yeah, Chris Johnson. He's our old sound guy. He's a fantastic dude. He's a homie. Just all around great dude, and he's super talented. So it's cool to be around someone that you really like and gel with personality wise, and also someone that really is knows the craft and can get it done in the studio. So we tracked the drums at God City, and then everything else we did at different studios. So we did the rest of the guitar tracking at a studio outside of Toronto. And then Luke recorded all of his vocals at his own studio, like his home studio. But as far as the God City process, I mean, it was great. It's cool to be in Salem. I don't get to go there like a ton, but it's a cool, like, witchy city, right? There's like a little bit of like a vibe there. And the studio is really cool. There's the control room's great, and they've got like tons of awesome gear. I forget the name of the mics. It's like Johansson or something like that, but they're like crazy expensive, boutique, best of the best, like drum mics that we mic the whole kit up with. So, I love the sound of the record in general, but the drum sound is just so punchy. It's natural. It's warm when it needs to be warm, and and dynamic when it needs to be dynamic, and then it also like hits super hard and is like punchy and like in your face. For the heavier parts on like a song like the first single. So yeah, it was just cool to mix it up. I mean, after recording a fair amount of records at this point in across different studios with different producers and different personality types, it's always cool to add another sort of landmark to the list of studios that you've been recorded a record in. It's kind of a nice memory to think back on. I can think to like every single album we recorded in different scenarios, and part of the environment I think shapes the record a little bit. Especially if you're going into a place for the first time, there's a certain palpable excitement around that.
For sure. And then to get all mystical and weird, you get this like you get the vibe and the spirit of everybody that's been there before too. Like it's in the walls. There's a little vibration of it. Yeah. So that's really cool. And the album's coming out, it says here, October, have a date, October 9th?
Yep.
October 9th, and it'll be on Season of Mist. The pre-orders are available now. I see you got a bunch of different packages with vinyls, different color vinyls and shirts. And so anybody that's listening, make sure to pick that up. Or check out even the single, because the single is awesome.
Thank you. Yeah, they Mark McCoy did the artwork for it. He was the artist behind those, that classic iconic imagery of some of those Full of Hell records that came out. So he has this really cool, bizarre, like surreal photo manipulation, style to some of his pieces that he, employed on the new Gargoyl layout. I mean, even from an artistic standpoint, like, visually, it's totally different than anything I've ever done before, and that was definitely a conscious effort to make, to have this whole project from the music to the visuals be its own thing. So the T-shirts that he did for the pre-orders of the record are really quite stunning.
Yeah, I see 3 different ones right now, and they're all really cool.
Mm-hmm.
I suggest people check that out. You mentioned earlier too, you have other projects. Is there anything you can talk about, like anything you want to talk about or bring up?
I mentioned the website, so definitely check that out if you're in the market for some different study materials. And you can also book online lessons with me through that directly. So yeah, primarily teaching stuff, but I launched my Twitch channel, so I'm slowly but surely getting more involved with that. I have my YouTube channel that's up. I believe that's Dave Davidson Music. If you search for it, I'm slowly starting to kind of get all my ducks in a row with figuring out what I'm going to be uploading where and what content is going to go where. But my plan is to maybe do some Revocation covers, like some playthroughs, and put them up on YouTube. Twitch I'm going to sort of use as maybe more live playthrough things. And I might end up teaching in different ways on both those platforms. So I've got sort of a lot of options right now. They're just, YouTube's been around forever, but Twitch is more of a new thing, certainly for me. So I'm just trying to wrap my head around which direction I want to go with these different platforms, so that I can kind of just maximize my potential on those while I'm home and be some sort of content creator or something like that, right? So and then I'm writing the new Revocation album as we speak. So obviously a lot of my focus is going into making that as good as I possibly can. Obviously we want to deliver a follow-up that was worthy of the last record. So I'm very excited with how the new material is actually shaping up for that. I think it's going to be pretty damn deadly. So looking forward to whenever we get into the studio for that. But there's no set date. Like I said, my focus is primarily on Gargoyl right now, but I don't know. I guess I just like to always have a lot of irons in the fire and constantly be working on creative projects, even if it's not necessarily music that I'm writing. Last night I was just going down this YouTube rabbit hole and watching this guitar player Wayne Krantz, who I'm a big fan of. He's a great fusion player. He's got all these different sounds that make up his style, and just sort of learning some of his shit by ear, or watching him play stuff, how does he play that? So learning a lot, and always trying to learn something every day. The day before that I was working on just transcribing by ear some Lionel Lueke stuff. If you're not familiar with Lionel Lueke, he's another fantastic jazz guitar player. He incorporates a lot of different African rhythms and stuff like that into his music. Nice. Super inspiring dude. Really interesting takes on rhythm in general. But then he'll just play these wild lines, sometimes over just like a jazz standard, and it's holy shit, what the hell did I just hear? I gotta learn that. So always trying to learn. I've been reading a bunch of actually I've got a couple books right here that I'm reading, the Coltrane
nice
book.
Nice.
It's told through it's basically his autobiography, but told through interviews with him and different articles that they all compiled for this book. And then I'm also reading this book right here, which I highly recommend.
America the Farewell Tour.
Yeah, Chris Hedges, who's a brilliant thinker and writer, and he's certainly been sounding the alarm about a lot of issues with the American political system for quite a long time now. So again, sort of like it's crazy that this book came out like just prior to the to the pandemic hitting, and it just kind of goes to show like how right he was about all these sort of like warning signs basically that were on the horizon. So yeah, just trying to stay informed. I think knowledge is power, and especially in a time like now.
It's a little difficult too, man, because as we know, there's fake news shit everywhere, and it's hard to determine like where do we get facts? You know what I mean? Because you hear shit about the virus, for example, where it's from a lab, or no, it's from the bats, or it's this or that, and it's like I don't even know, and it's almost exhausting. Like I don't care. I just want it to go away. I don't care where it came from. I know it's there's people that it's a political thing. Like the government made the virus so that we can sway the elections. It's like really, but why is the virus attacking people in Italy then? Like
right.
That makes no sense to me.
Well, so, I think the truth is out there, right? But you're not going to find it in like memes and stuff like that, right? The search for truth. I mean, I think everyone should be on a search for truth. Any kind of universal truth that we can find for yourself and as a society collectively. So I think it's everyone's duty to be informed. That being said, it requires work. It's like that quote. The price of democracy is eternal vigilance, right? Like you kind of like can't get lazy with it and like let your guard down because it might not happen overnight, but it's sort of like a slow drip, and then before you know it, like the bucket is overflowing with problems, right? That you sort of turning a blind eye to. So seems like there's a lot of great activism that's been going on though, and people are definitely trying to be as informed as possible, and sharing information, and mobilizing, and hopefully we can change the course that we're going down, because I think obviously a major fundamental change needs to happen in this country, and also sort of worldwide as well, as we see ourselves as part of a global economy. We're all intertwined with everybody. Like I'd love to see everyone sort of get more on the same page, but obviously that takes time. There's so many more variables there, but at least focusing on what we can fix at home now, in the U.S. is I think should be the number one priority, and people gotta stay informed, and hopefully we can create like a real fundamental systematic change, with everyone working together, and of course you're always going to have the detractors and the people that are on the the other side that are sort of going to vote for an opposition party just out of like pure hatred for the other side, right? Not even like based in anything sort of in any kind of evidence or facts. That's just, I think, the nature of human beings and a certain level of tribalism that we can't really. It's hard to shake as a species, right? Like some of these things are just sort of like ingrained in like the primordial part of the brain. I don't even know if they're thought processes that we're aware of. But as I mentioned earlier, I think knowledge is power, and trying to stay as informed as possible, hopefully will lead to a good result down the line. But because we're at a crossroads, it's kind of gonna go sort of, we're either gonna go down the path of like, authoritative, government, or something that is gonna work for more, it was gonna work for a collective and be more beneficial to society as a whole. So hopefully we choose the path of righteousness, but we'll see.
It's so weird, man. It's weird. I'm in a weird situation too, because I don't really subscribe to any political party. I don't really follow any of that. I think it's all nonsense right now. But I have a lot of friends and family my Cuban side of my family that, they hear the concept of like, oh, let's work together as humans to move past this point. And the immediate thought is like, communist? How dare you? You're a communist. That's communism and socialism. I'm like, who cares? I don't call it whatever you want. Why can't we be nice to other humans? Like, it's just it blows my mind, and a lot of them, I have some, unfortunately, I have some Republican Cuban friends that they're like, oh, I'm voting for Trump this year again. And I'm like, but why? He's such a bad representation of your party that you like. And and they're like, well, yeah, but what else? I'm not going to vote for Biden because I'm Republican. It's like, what? It just like, I'm not telling them to vote for Biden, but it's just that idea, that logic of like, I'm voting for this no matter what because that's the party I chose and that's where I'm at, and I don't want to be I come from Cuba's communist system and socialist system, so anything that goes against that and there's no room for understanding or some kind of knowledge of trying to help each other, like trying to help people out. I don't know. It's such a weird thing.
Yeah. It's I'm definitely not I'm definitely anti-Trump. I hope I guess a blue wave comes in, sort of across the board to kind of fix a lot of the problems that have happened the past 4 years. But some people, like you said, like they're sort of indoctrinated into a certain political party, and it's hard to kind of undo some of that thinking. So I think having good, honest, open conversations, where that are factually based, can hopefully turn this high. But sometimes human beings don't respond to logic and facts and numbers and all that kind of stuff. We respond to more like emotional things, right? Like like anecdotal stories that like might affect you or like someone else that like directly. Right. Is going to like mean more to. It's just like the way like our brains are wired, right? Like we perceive like immediate threats with much more focus than like something that's going to come like a few years down the line, right? That's going to have, could potentially have way more of a detrimental impact, right? I mean, even look at the virus. Like there's been, talk of like literally like a coronavirus that is novel getting out into the population for years now. This isn't like a new concept. There were warning signs about this. And the previous administration left like a real like kind of pandemic playbook, to follow for the next administration that obviously, they're claiming that they didn't and this and that. So like, but there was no pandemic 5 years ago, so no one really thought about it, right? I think the swine flu when that started, I think that burned itself out like kind of early on. I mean, obviously, like it affected a lot of people, but like they didn't like develop a vaccine for it at the time because it wasn't like there was no like financial incentive behind it, right? But like that was definitely one of the warning shots that like as a sort of global collective we maybe could have taken much more seriously and avoided a lot more like death and pain and suffering down the line. So obviously, like you could easily make this segue into climate change, right? I mean, like sure, every scientist around the world is talking about how the ones that don't work for oil companies at least that like talk about how this is going to be catastrophic. I mean, I've heard some of the numbers and it's like basically if the numbers are right, it's going to lead to like something like 70% like global extinction of the human species. And we don't we can't perceive that because it's not like, or we can think about it, but it's like it doesn't seem like a real threat because it's like several years off. But again, it's that slow drip as I was talking about. Hurricanes get worse every year, or like there's droughts in different places, or crazy flooding in other places. You know, things just slowly are going to become more and more intense. I mean, I read an article the other day that they were saying like certain parts of the globe, you know, and you know, the next like few years are going to be like uninhabitable as far as like working environments, like places that like working outside, like farmland and stuff like that. It's going to be like too hot for like human beings to do these jobs.
Yeah.
So yeah, I mean,
I've been hearing a lot about the Earth is healing because of this, because we're not out as much. There's a lot less pollution and other things. So, you know, I don't know. Maybe it's a coincidence.
Maybe it bought us a little bit of time, but you know, I don't think it's necessarily like going to like change the course that we're on. You know, like maybe it buys us a year or something like that. You know, but you know, who knows?
Yeah.
I
Yeah,
think,
the more I think about it, the more I think, like you said, we're at a crossroads, and maybe some kind, like, you know, that systematic change that you were mentioning, and that a lot of people mention that we need, might be bigger than we are thinking. And you know, the thought process, or even bringing it up, people yell at you like, "Oh, you're un-American." It's like, well, I don't think we need to be America as much anymore. Like maybe there needs to be a separation of states. Like they're not complete separation to where we're enemies and we're fighting each other or whatever, but just kind of like, hey, all right, fine. You guys obviously, you know, there's a certain number of people that want to live a certain way, and there's no convincing them otherwise. No matter how many, you know, facts you put in front of them, they're just going to argue to death. They're going to argue till they're blue in the face, and they're not there for reasoning and understanding. They're just there like, this is my point of view and fuck you, no matter what. So how do we address that? Like, how do we even deal with that? I think maybe just fine, go over there then. You know, go go live your life over there. We'll do our thing over here, and you know, it could be two different countries or something. I don't know, but I think it has to be something that big. I don't think we're gonna get everybody under the same umbrella anymore. Like it's gotten so bad. You know, you see the Civil War, you know, division, that it's so bad that I don't know. I don't know if we can bring everybody back together.
yeah, I mean, I think that's going to be very difficult to do, and I think that's going to. I mean, I definitely understand the sentiment. I mean, it's ironic that we're called the United States because we're anything but that, right? I mean, it really does feel like we're in 2 or 3 different countries with their own ideologies that are under this umbrella of America. I mean, literally, I think, you know, what would be beneficial, at least in terms of like a presidential election, is I think we just need to do away with the Electoral College. I think it's an antiquated way of thinking. I don't think it makes any sense that, you know, certain states that have like 1/10 the population of a state like California, like, you know, have the same, you know, electoral votes or whatever. It's just not, it's doesn't do anything for the greater good. I mean, I think, you know, what is it, like Hillary won by like 3 million votes or something like that, but she's, you know, she won the popular election but still lost the election because of the electoral vote. So I think something like that is just, if we're living in a country, and you know, the founding fathers couldn't have possibly like fathomed this like all those years ago, that like some of these states would be just so much more populated, you know, in the sake of fairness and, you know, having everyone. I think that would also inspire more people to vote, right? Because like in certain, you know, states that are blue versus certain states that are red, you know, if you're a Republican in Massachusetts, like, you know, voting in a presidential election, like that's going to go towards a Democrat. It just traditionally like always has. Like something like insane would have to happen in order for like, you know, Massachusetts to become like a red state electorally. So, but if you make everyone's vote like literally count the same, so it doesn't matter where you live, you know, I think that's the fairest way to do it. Then you tally all those votes and you see where it goes. Also, I mean, this goes without saying, but I think we need to do away with the 2-party system. That's not going to happen this time around by any means. But like, you know, having more choices certainly would help. But, you know, in the meantime, yeah, doing away with the electoral system. I just feel that it's so antiquated, and it doesn't give everyone's vote sort of an equal weight. Like it depends on where you live depends on how much your vote matters or doesn't matter. That being said, I think everyone, should vote, especially in like their state and local governments, because that can have a direct effect, and hopefully that can sort of turn the tide in the Senate, because just clearly so many Republicans just don't give a fuck about the general public. So
it's a weird thing too, because not just the Electoral College being antiquated, a lot of governmental things are antiquated, and people will fight you tooth and nail to stop you from trying to think that there needs to be change. Like, the people who wrote the Bill of Rights and all that, the Constitution, like, that they had no idea what the internet was, right? They don't even, you tell them that you have this little device in your hand that shows them people fucking in a different universe, like they would be like, you're insane, you're a witch, burn them at the stake.
Right.
So how are those folks supposed to know what we now in 2020, with the way the world is now and how things have changed? Like, it doesn't correlate. Like, I'm sorry, those are different humans. They had no idea of all the shit that we've gone through.
Of course, yeah. It always just seems sort of odd to me. I mean, certainly there are great thinkers, throughout history, whose intellect, helped move the human race forward. But like the sort of reverence for the founding fathers, they're these infallible, sort of like godlike figures. It never made any sense to me. And the Constitution has amendments because times change, right? So I mean, even something like and this has been brought up, it won't pass with the Republican Senate, but giving Washington D.C. More rights. Like right now, like DC doesn't, like, they don't have a governor. Like they have I don't think DC gets like any electoral votes or anything like that. Like they're sort of like this weird principality, like territory, but they have more people than like New Hampshire or Vermont has. So it's like, I think that their state motto, right, or I forget which state motto, but like it's like the no taxation without representation. I mean, and that's literally what being a resident of DC is like. I mean, like the mayor basically acts as the governor there, and like they don't have like an electoral say. So if we can't do away with the Electoral College right away, at least we can like agree on like, okay, here's like a state that doesn't have like rights that all the other states have. Like we should change that so that these people are given a voice. But obviously, there's certain powers that be on the other side of the aisle that like definitely don't want that to happen, because they know if you give those people a voice, they're going to start to lose elections, and it's going to start to hold sway over like the direction that the country goes in. So I think the Republicans love to fight dirty, but they also want to like do everything in their power to like not allow like other people to try to like have a fair shake at politics, right? Whether it's moving around districts and this and that. I mean, there's all these different tactics, but I think certainly the DC issue is one that hopefully could be a bipartisan issue. I mean, people that are living in DC, their voices should be heard, especially like and contribute to where the country is going politically on a national level, if we are the United States of America, right? So I don't hold a lot of hope for that right now, but I know that because of the Senate is Republican controlled. But if that turns around, it's definitely a possibility that it would basically, I think it would require like democratic control of like the three branches of government. So we'll see.
Yeah, man, we'll see. I mean, honestly, there's so much going on every day in the news and with politics. And I'm not watching the news. Like, I don't have TV. I'm not like Fox News or CNN or any of that shit. I get my news basically from my friends and family and whatever they're posting about on Facebook. Like I'm like, oh God, now what? And then it's exhausting.
Yeah.
Because I, I used to be more politically involved or like interested at least,
Mhm.
and it's just I feel like it's just overwhelming, and I don't really have a dog in the race or whatever the expression you want to say. Like I don't really, what am I gonna do outside of going and voting? Like, am I gonna go protest out in Washington D.C. right now? Like I can't, and not only that, but just seeing the fights between people, just like like the even just simple things like the mask wearing thing. Like how did that become
Politicized.
political? Yeah, like
Yeah.
what are you guys doing? Just stop. Like
No, no, I know. Again, we're this country's so divided, and I'm not saying you know every single Democratic candidate out there isn't without their flaws, right? I'm not just sort of blindly voting for the blue team. It's just given what I've studied, the politics that I'm aligned with. Like in order to move the country in a better direction, and in my estimation, uh, I think we need to move in a much more blue kind of way, because I don't know, I think Republican policies just time after time again show that they favor the incredibly wealthy. And they're just misleading. I mean, there's like sort of like a reformed, quote unquote, I forget the guy's name, but he's like basically like I think he's like an ex CEO of some like major like healthcare firm, and he was sort of famously going around different right wing media outlets and touting that like how much worse the Canadian healthcare system is, and like yeah, we could go towards more of a Canadian version of healthcare, but it's so terrible, and here are these examples why. I wish I could remember the guy's name, but he's since he said like his real shame in life is that like he basically misled the American public. Like it's now public like what he did, but basically I think they were like taking like anecdotal things, right, like certain situations or like a very limited sort of data point, and point to that and see like, oh, see, like you're gonna wait like hours for healthcare, months and months for like life-saving procedures, and it's just not the case there across the board. I mean, I've got tons of friends that are Canadian. They're like, I don't know why like Americans like are always shitting on the Canadian healthcare system. Like it's great up here. Like it's way better than like the system we have here, where like people can't afford healthcare. Like they're just getting fucked from like someone goes to like the ER and they get hit with like this like world-ending like financially crippling bill, and it happens time and time again. So
yeah, I got hit with kidney stones not too long ago, and I had to take an ambulance because I was at work, I couldn't drive, and just an ambulance ride, and then they took me in and they didn't do anything. I ended up passing the stone, but
right.
They check my temperature or whatever, and they're like, yeah, it sounds like you got kidney stones. Like,
Right.
just wait here or pee here. And then I peed, it came out, and done. They gave me some medication that I didn't even take, some like flow shit that makes you pee more.
Right.
But all of that ended up being like $30,000
Wow.
with no actual work. Like they didn't
Right.
do anything, and
Right.
it was still the ambulance ride and all that. It was like 30,000. Thankfully, I had health insurance, with the company I work for, and it was great. It was taken care of mostly,
Right.
but still, like if you don't have health insurance, what?
Right.
$30,000? That's a whole year's salary.
Right. For an ambulance ride, basically, So,
Yeah.
So yeah. So whether it's healthcare, education, like all these things, like I said, like I don't think either. Like I don't think the Democratic Party is perfect by any means. I'd like to see like a lot of reform in the Democratic Party. I mean, I was very much a Bernie Sanders supporter because he was most in line with my political leanings. So, I'm definitely not thrilled with Joe Biden by any means. But at the same, and I just don't think he's a candidate that inspires like a ton of enthusiasm, right? But compared to Trump, who is just like bungling this situation at every turn, spreading misinformation, signaling just like crazy, like floating conspiracy theories, like from the Oval Office, like constantly.
Yeah,
he was
all the
talking
time,
recently about delaying the 2020 election.
I saw that. Yeah.
And I just, I think about the hypocrisy of like all these right wing, media outlets that were, claiming like, Obama was essentially the Antichrist. I mean, if he did like 1/10 of anything that Trump did, it would have been chaos over there. But yeah, so I think when you look at even if you're just voting for a Supreme Court seat, right, which is also such an important thing, right, because those appointments are for life. Do you want someone who's going to stack the Supreme Court with incredibly conservative, judges that might have ties to sort of like religious ideologies that don't serve the country in a neutral way, or more liberal-minded judges that are hopefully going to be more like forward-thinking and preserving people's liberties. I mean, that to me is the long game that I think is super important, because those appointments last for life, and I know Ginsburg's not doing too hot right now, so
yeah.
Hopefully we don't replace her with. I didn't mean for this to turn into a whole political conversation.
It is what it is, man. It's funny, and this is a side note that you mentioned Ruth Bader Ginsburg. I have a Google alerts set up for the podcast, and since it's our RBG podcast, I get Google alerts for Ruth Bader Ginsburg stuff all the time. RBG. It's like, no, there's one more R. Yeah, I get constant emails about her health and her and how she's doing. But yeah, dude, I mean, look, I don't know what political party I'm aligned with. I've definitely been.
I would guess that you're more Democratic. I would guess.
Probably. But the way I see life, thanks to just the experiences that I've had and exploring psychedelics and whatnot, I've seen that this world that we live in functions on a frequency, like a scale. And everything here has one side or the other. There's a red and blue, and you got the beginning and the end, and birth and death, and it's very bipolar duality type of thing. And the most peace that I have found is trying to be somewhere in the middle. Like being happy all the time is unreasonable to me. Mm-hmm. You know what I mean? Like it creates this crazy, utopian shit that is unreasonable, and the other side of the spectrum is also completely unreasonable to me. So I've always found peace somewhere in the middle. And I feel that right now, politics are definitely leaning all the way to one side or the other. There's no middle ground, and there should be. So if all the governmental seats are red, then yeah, we need some blue in there to balance it out only. Not to shift it all the way to blue, but just to kind of be somewhere in the middle, because it's all just leaning on one side. And the same goes for, the discussions of like Black Lives Matters and everything. Like people that I know personally, they're like, why is it Black Lives Matter, not all lives matter? I'm like, dude, it is, but we kind of need to shift the scale. Like if we don't, of course everyone's life matters, but if we don't shift the scale back to the middle, you're seeing it in the extremes. Like it's not only Black Lives Matters, it's not only white, or it has to be all of us together, or we're not going to make it. We're not going to make it past this virus that's trying to kill us. We're not going to make it past all the natural disasters. Like if we can't work together, we're doomed, and it's very dark and doomy kind of thought process, but I think it inspires hope. Like I think we should work together to move past the bigger picture problems, not just, oh, he wants my money and this is communism. Like, shut up. Like, I'm worried about that volcano that's about to explode in Yellowstone. Like that's what I'm worried about.
Right.
So,
for sure. Yeah, I think we need to come together as a country for sure. For the greater good. And there's a lot of people that are out there that are just trying to sow division because it's politically expedient for them, but
or benefits them personally.
Yeah, no, exactly, right.
Selfishness,
It's like they're doing it for like their own selfish gains or whatever. But no, for sure, like I think everything you said there is right. I mean, we need to like focus on issues that are impacting specific communities, so that it's just so important, right? Like
rising tide lifts all boats, as it.
Yeah, and like someone. I mean, it's just like a silly point that someone made, but it's it's true. It's like when people say like oh we got to save the rainforest. They're not saying like fuck every other type of forest. You know what I mean? Like
fuck that forest over there.
Right. It's like no, this needs our help. This needs our attention. Let's raise awareness for this. We're all part of a collective society, so I think everyone should embrace Black Lives Matter. For that reason. So, but a lot of people obviously have their own political agendas, or they want to twist things around to sow division, which is it's disheartening at best.
Well, you just lost a bunch of Republican fans. I'm just kidding. But all right, well, just to shift away from that and just kind of wrap up, we've been talking for an hour now. You're busy, you got stuff to do. But people listening at home, Gargoyl, October 9th. As you mentioned earlier, you're working on new Revocation. That's exciting for me. The last album, dude, it took me a little bit. I'm gonna be honest with you. Like when it first came out, I heard the whole thing. I'm like, that was awesome, and then I just never went back to it for some reason. It wasn't like, oh, I didn't like it, or it just never happened. And then, like 3 months later, I put the whole record on, and then it just didn't stop playing for like 6 months. It was just nonstop. Like it took me 3 months to grasp it, and I realized like, holy shit, I'm an idiot. Like, why have I been not listening to this every day? So, I'm excited. I'm assuming that because you're writing it now during these times, that the situation is definitely influencing the writing. So, I mean, are you dealing with a lot of anxiety and all that? Like, is it going to be heavier? Is it more like the more recent album, or are you leaning towards more Our Greatest Sin, which was kind of had a little more singing, cleaner vocals and melody?
Yeah, I mean, I can probably say that it's going to. Well, it's a little bit too early to tell as far as the vocal side of things. Like I haven't written any lyrics for it yet. I have a bunch of ideas. But since Gargoyl is all just clean singing, and the outer ones was all death metal, extreme metal vocals. I'm kind of enjoying that duality in my playing, and I'm probably going to sort of lean more into that fully death metal side of things for the Revocation material. I guess put it this way, there haven't been any sections on the new Revocation stuff that I've been writing that I'm like right off the bat hearing like singing over. It's just all like really dark and foreboding and brutal and heavy. So yeah, I'll probably continue on down that path, but it's too early to tell. There may be some sections that end up having singing on them. I like to leave the creative process open and like let things develop and not set anything like in stone.
Yeah, and maybe I'm wrong. I tend to get all my music news in giant batches, and usually when I'm like relaxing with some wine or some weed. But did I read properly that Dan has left the band? Dan?
He did, yes. Yeah, Dan left. I think that announcement was made maybe a month ago at this point, or maybe slightly under. No plans to get like a permanent guitar player right now. That's like not even on my radar. I'm just focused on, especially since we're writing right now. Like, I'm not going to bring in a new guy to like write the new Revocation record. Someone who's never toured with the band before. So I think probably what we're going to end up doing is, bringing out some different dudes to tour with, like when the time does come, and maybe we'll just sort of remain a three-piece and rotate guys in and out, and like have some hired guns here and there for different tours, or if we like really really click with someone, probably at the end of the touring cycle, they'll for this upcoming record they'll maybe become like a member for the next album after that, if the world doesn't end by then.
And did Dan have a lot with the writing process? I guess it's going to affect the writing process for you.
Well, the songs Dan wrote were awesome. It wasn't like a 50-50 thing or anything like that. I mean, I write all the lyrics and do all like the vocal patterns and stuff like that, and then musically speaking, from a guitar perspective, I write about 80%, and he writes 20%. So on Great Is Our Sin. Well, that was a 9-song album, but he wrote 2 songs, and I wrote the other 7. And then on the record, on Great Is Our Sin, I wrote 8. He wrote 2. So he will be missed for he was a great performer and a great songwriter. I think he added a really cool element to our sound. But I've just got so much material in the works for the next one. Like I'm not feeling like the pressure. Like, oh shit, like I don't have enough material. We got to get someone to fill in that gap there, especially because there's like no deadline right now. We don't have any no touring plans on the horizon. We won't have any touring plans for quite some time. And I've just got a whole bunch of stuff saved up. I don't know if it's the quarantine or the pandemic or whatever, but there's a lot of ideas flowing right now. So I'm happy to say that we'll have a lot of stuff to choose. We might actually have to whittle things down.
Nice. Well, dude, thank you so much for talking with me. I miss you.
Miss you too, Eddie.
I miss hanging out with you, man. We've shared some fun times, but hopefully we will share some fun times in the future. Let's not lose our humanity.
That's right. Yeah, we're all in it together, and I think the more if everyone can get on that page and realize like we're part of this collective here. And that hopefully everyone's got their best interests at heart. We'll get through it. So be good to your neighbor, be good to yourself, and let's all sort of come together to defeat not only this virus, but obviously the systematic problems that are facing this country right now, so that we can heal holistically and overall. And that's my message of peace and love today.
Awesome, brother. Well, everybody listening, Gargoyl, October 9th, Season of Mist. Follow them on the social medias. I look forward to hearing the full album. I've only heard the 1 song, so I'm hoping Katie will send me the rest soon. Everybody, pick it up. Follow Dave online if you want some lessons. Learn how to play guitar like a badass. You're definitely one of the best guitar players I know. So
thank you, man.
Could not be more happy that you're doing well and working. So
thank you so much, and I appreciate your time as well. And it's always fun just talking. These are cool because they're not like sort of like a preconceived thing. It's just like 2 guys hanging out and having a conversation. So I appreciate that. I feel like we would have been talking about this stuff, podcast or no podcast. So
yeah, for sure, brother.
Hopefully it was entertaining.
Hopefully, I think so. All right, man. Stay safe.
Later, man.
Cheers.